Okay. Similarly, Bechad Saif Sheneharagbo, and likewise the sword that was used to behead him. V'echad Sudar Shenechnakbo, and likewise the kerchief, let's say, that was used to strangle. Kulan Nikbarin Imo. All those items were buried with the deceased, the one who was condemned. Okay? Lo, says the Gemara. Sricha the mitkane. No. In other words, they needed to prepare another. Umaite acharini chilifahu. In other words, they would, what it meant was that those were buried, that was used, they brought another to replace, to have it there. Okay? So the Gemara says, Nikbarin imo. Right? It was buried with him. Vahatanya. But elsewhere we have a bright that says, Ein Nikbarin imo, that it was not buried with him. Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, my imo, what do we mean imo? With him? B'tfisato. Okay, it was buried in the same, so to speak, Dalit Amos, in which the area that the deceased was, the condemned deceased was buried.
That means that they never used it again?
Right. Right. It was not used again. It's a one-time thing. Remember, we saw that the community had to pay for these items. Okay? So there was a one-time, well, so that, all right?
So the platform was used again,
The platform could be used again, theoretically.
and that was a tool altogether.
Right. Okay? All right, so what happens, says the Nikta'a Yad Ha'edim. Let's assume, says the Gemara, we're going to have a slightly different kind of question. Let's assume that the witnesses were missing their hands. Okay, right? So they couldn't push him off the scaffold. Pator. Does that mean the person would be exempt, acquitted? Okay. Ma'itama. What's the reasoning? Okay. Deba'ina. Okay. We need the fact that the verse says, Yad ha'edim tiyeh bo barishona, that the hand of the witnesses, okay, should be the first ones to act. And therefore now, the leka, right. And so when they don't have any hands, how can you fulfill the exact wording of the pasuk? Now, we're going to get to this question. We call it ba'inin kra kedichtiv. This is the question. Do we need always to fulfill the exact wording of and carry out the pasuk as it exactly is written? Okay? And that's what we're going to look at now for a part of this Amud. Okay? All right. So the Mishnah now we see as follows. But from here, what might we argue? Edim gidmin the meikara. Okay, those that are missing hands initially. Okay, okay. What happens? Hachanami the psile. They also would be then considered disqualified. Shani hatim, says the Gemara. It's different there. Why? The amakra, because there the pasuk specifically spells out yad ha'edim. Okay, shahitakva. Okay, that meant already had, that they had to have had hands. Okay, to be able to do so. Meitive, says the Gemara. But we're going to challenge this view. Komakom, okay, that we say. Sheya'iduhu shnayim, any place where two of them recite the testimony. Vayamru me'idim anu be'ish ploni, and we come to testify. Okay. No. Okay. And therefore the sentencing is concluding. All right. So what happens? Okay. Okay, implying that the decision, okay, is not necessarily written such that the death has to be at the hands of the witness. Okay, the Veit Din Ploni in such a court, the Ploni Ploni Edav, and Ploni are his witnesses. Hare ze Yehare is then to be put to death. We don't have to necessarily understand the pasuk to say that it's, I'm going to use it, dafka, particularly the witnesses that carry it out. Okay? Tirgama Shmuel. However, Shmuel explains as follows: Bahen, where it says through them or with them, okay, Hain Edam, they are his witnesses. Umi ba'inin kradiktiv. And do we not therefore say that we must fulfill the pasuk the way it is specifically written? Okay. However, all right, what do we see here? Okay. Okay, fulfilling, I just say it was specific. Vahatanya, says the Gemara. But haven't we learned elsewhere in the book the following? Mot yumat hamakeh, wrote the double language of clearly put to death. Okay, the one who strikes is a murderer. Okay, ein li ela b'mita. We have this only regards to a situation of death. Haktuva bo. That's written there. Minayin she'im I ata yachol lahamito b'mita haktuva bo. How do we know that? That in a situation where you're not able to put him to death in the specific manner, okay, or specific style of execution that normally would be carried out under such circumstances, okay, she'ata mamito b'chol mita, she'ata yachol lahamito, that you put him to death in whatever, in other means, through whatever other possibility. Okay, how do we know this? Talmud Loma, because of the double lashon of the pasuk that says mot yumat hamakeh. Okay, indeed you shall put him to death, the one who strikes. Umikol makom, regardless. Okay, in any case, shani hatam, it's different there. Okay, maybe that's an exception. The amar kra mot yumat, because there the pasuk clearly spells out the double lashon that indeed you must put him to death. Okay, v'ligmar mine. Maybe we could learn therefore from that situation that in other cases we need not follow, okay, the pasuk as explicitly written. Okay, mishum dahava rotzeach v'goel hadam. Why? Because we've got an example of the murderer and the family avenger. I'm going to call the goel hadam. Okay, shnei ktuvim habaim me'echad. These are like two verses that come and convey the same concept, the same statement. B'chol shnei ktuvim habaim me'echad. And whenever we have two psukim that come together as one, ein melamdim, we cannot learn from this and derive other understanding.
So seem to have the same. One of them can't. You have to find another rule for that one.
Okay. All right, so the Gemara picks up. Rotzeach had the Amran. In terms of the example of the murderer, we've said, Goel Hadam, Maihi. So how do you connect this with the idea of the Goel Hadam? Okay, namely, says the Mishnah, the Gemara, I'm sorry, a Braita, the Tanya, as we learn, excuse me, Goel Hadam, Yamit et Harotzeach mitzvah, that the family avenger putting to death the murderer is considered a mitzvah, a part of it. Begoel Hadam, in regarding the family avenger, uminayin she'im ein lo goel. And how do we know this? If there is no individual in the family to act as the family avenger, right? Shebedin ma'amidin lo goel, that the court then appoints somebody, okay, as a family avenger. In other words, that would still mean that if he is appointed by the court, it means the person indeed, using the language from the pasuk, is going to get a death penalty. Because if the court doesn't carry it out directly, then it's carried out indirectly. Okay.
There are no cousins or brothers. The court appoints a designated.
Right, that's what we said. Okay.
We get 007.
Okay. No, the point is that since the court appointed him, it's not the direct carrying out by the court, it's indirect, and the person is still going to have to be killed. Okay, as the court would rule. Okay, so what happens then? Okay, whatever. Okay. Sha'im ein lo go'el, shebeit din ma'midin lo go'el shenama, as the pasuk says. Okay, b'pega bo. Okay, and when at the point when he encounters him. Okay, mikom makom. In any case. Okay, so the Gemara picks up. Amarle Mark Shisha Berei de Rav Chisda. He says to him, Le Rav Ashi, to Rav Ashi, Umi lo ba'inan. Okay, and don't we, in this case, okay, still attempt to support Shmuel's view that we follow the pasuk as written? Okay, the support of Shmuel's view. All right, Kra lo ba'inan kra kedichtiv. Don't we still need that? Vahatznan. Why? But isn't it taught elsewhere in a Mishnah? Haya echad mehem gidem. If one of them, taking now the example of the ben sorer umoreh, okay, we'll take that as an example, which actually could be considered a challenge to Shmuel's position. Okay, if one of the parents in the ben sorer omer, okay, was such that they did not have lacking hands. Oh, Elaim. Okay. Oh, we say that they were deaf. Okay. I'm not deaf, mute. Okay. Oh, Chiger, or they were lame. Oh, Suma, or they were blind. Oh, Cheresh, or they were deaf. Eino ne'aseh ben sorer umoreh. He cannot be declared a rebellious son. Okay. Okay, so it comes to try to, so his point tries to bring support to Shmuel's view. Shenamar, as it says, v'tafsu bo v'lo gidmin. But then it goes on to say they grab him, okay, and it can't be done if don't have hands. V'hotzioto, and take him out, v'lo chogrin, and that can't be done if they're lame. V'amru lo ilmin, and they say to him, that can't be done if they're mute. Okay, banenu zeh, this son, velo sumin, and that can't be clear if they're blind, right? Einenu shomea bekolenu, that he doesn't listen to our voice, velo chushin, and that can't be done if they're deaf. My tama, what's the reasoning there? Lav mishum de ba'in and kra kidichtiv, don't we need there too? Is that because we're reading the pasuk and understanding it explicitly the way it's written? Okay, no, says the Gemara. Shani hatam. It's different there. Why? The kule kra yeterahu, because the entire pasuk, okay, is superfluous. Okay, and therefore is being darshed. Hashma, says the Gemara. Listen to the following braita. Ein la. Okay, Rechov. I'll give another example where I try to support, again, Shmuel's view. All right? If the town in Ir Nidachet doesn't have a public square, okay, so to speak, Ein Neset, okay, Ir Nidachet, it's not considered to be, cannot become a Ir Nidachet. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. That's the view of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva says instead, Ein la Rechov. If it doesn't have a public square, we make a public square. Ad kan lo plige. Up to here, they don't argue. Ela demar savar rechova de meikara ba'inen. Why? Only because one master holds that it has to originally have a public square. Umar savar rechova the hashtanami de meikara dami. And the other holds that now creating a public square is like having it originally. but they don't argue on the issue of having the public square. That's what the Gemara wants us to understand. Aval de kuli alma, but every ba'inan, okay, that what's needed. Kra k'dirichtiv. That would seem to tell us that everybody agrees that we must read the pasuk and follow it as explicitly stated, explicitly written. Tana'aihi. This is actually a machloket Tana'i. Why? Ditznan. Why? Because it's taught as follows. All right, Ditznan. Ein lo behen yad. If one doesn't have a hand, okay, behen, okay, with them, a foot, ozen, yaminit. If one doesn't have, this is for purification purposes. If one doesn't have a right hand, okay, or a right thumb, let's put it that way, a thumb on the right hand, okay, okay, but bohen regel, or a big toe on the right foot, okay, right? What happened? Ozen yamini, or a right ear. Ein lo tahara olamit, says the point. He does not, he never is going to be capable of purification. All right? Okay, right? What happens? Rebbe Elazar Omer, he says, no tain al mikomo v'yotze. You put it on the place where that item was and it fulfills. Rabbi Shimon says, no tain al smolo v'yotze. And Rabbi Shimon says he puts it on the left and is fulfilled. Okay. Now, I'm just going to do the Mishnah and the time that we've got left, and tomorrow they'll do the Gemara. Kol haniskalin nitlin. All those that were stoned are then put on display and hung, either on a tree or on a beam. Okay, I'm going to take the example of the tree momentarily, because what happens, the Gemara Mishnah goes on. Divri Rabbi Eliezer, that's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages say, Eino nitla ela hamigadef ha'aved avodah zarah. No, the only ones that are hung is one who blasphemes or worships idols. Okay? Va'ish tolin oto panav klapei ha'am. The man is hung so that he's facing outward towards the population. Va'isha paneha klapei ha'etz. That's why I'm using the phrase tree here. Okay, okay, the piece of wood. Okay, facing the pole, the beam, the tree. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's the view of Rabbi Eliezer. V'chachamim omrim, but the sages say, ha'ish nitla, the man is hung, ve'ein ha'isha nitla, but the woman is not hung. Amar lehem Rabbi Eliezer, he says to the chachamim, v'halo Shimon ben Shetach. And don't you remember Shimon ben Shetach, tala nashim ba'ashkelon? Women were accused of being involved in sorcery, and they were all hung. Amar lo, he says, Shmonim nashim tala. He hung 80 women. Ve'ein danim shnayim b'yom echad. Okay, and we don't judge 2 in a single day. So that's where we'll stop there today. The Gemara will pick up with the Gemara tomorrow. Okay. Gentlemen, I suggest you not leave your Gemaras here. Okay. What? Oh, Rabbanan Kaddish from Marty, please. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Merit Tzakadosh Baruch Hu's good yourself speak Hakabelam Torah Mitzvot. Shneimar and Ekef Marty. You're good to Rabbi Adir, Rabbanan Kaddish. Amen. Yes.